Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Courageously Authentic Leadership Summit. I am so excited to have Veenu Keller with us today of Veenu Inspires, LLC. Veenu is a best-selling author of the following two books, BULLYPROOF, Unleash the Hero Inside Your Kid, and her #1 best-selling book, Numb. She's been featured on many different outlets, ABC, NBC, Fox, CW. She has a Bachelor of Science in Psychology. She's a certified master life coach and a certified behavior consultant. She's a busy lady. And she's also licensed by Dr. Daniel Amen as a brain health trainer and licensed by Joseph McClendon III as a neuroencoding specialist. We both share that, and that's where our communities have collided, thankfully. She is the coaching instructor, actually, for the Neuroencoding Institute and also a trainer for Tony Robbins. So I think she might know what she's talking about in this area. Veenu has also, she's got every title of mom, right? And we all know moms. Moms are like the ultimate leaders of the world, but she knows all too well about all those ups and downs of being a mom. And the biggest gift that I know she'll share with you today that she's learned on her journey through motherhood is being a mama is a sacred gift that we are given, right? And when we realize that it's not a measuring tool, and we focus on the connection, which I know she's going to talk about today, and the gift, we are on an entirely different journey. So some have actually called her the kid family whisperer. And one of the things that I think a lot of us know is that too many kids, they just don't feel like they're enough and they have low self-esteem. That actually carries on with many of us through adulthood. And drawing upon Veenu's experience with her coaching, with her personal and her professional experience, kids really open up with her and learn to know their worth and to feel better about themselves. And when your child is happy, they excel in all areas of their life. So I don't want to talk anymore. I want to hear from Veenu. So Veenu, the first question, what does courageously authentic leadership mean to you?
So for me, I look at the word courageous, like what does courageous mean to us? And it's showing up with, having the courage to be you, to be really who you are without being apologetic. So unapologetically showing up in any aspect of your life, whether that's me as a coach, whether that's me as a mom, a wife, like all the titles, all the hats that I wear, it takes courage. It takes courage to show up as me. And, I was just saying this to somebody else the other day, is like true freedom is letting go of anybody's judgment against you and just being you and not feeling like you have to prove yourself anymore. So when I look at that, that's courageous to me. And being a leader is showing up with integrity. And so when you look at courageous leadership, it's being you in that moment without any apologies, being able to guide and lead those that you get to inspire because there is no judgment. And that's truly what courageous leadership is to me.
Absolutely. I love that. I think a lot of us grow up in judgment of ourselves and others, right? And it just gets in our way. And speaking of things that get in the way, you've had a lot of experience in this area. What's the biggest obstacle that you've personally had to overcome on your leadership journey?
Learning to love myself, learning to know that I was worth it. And, I spent 21 years of my life suicidal. So from the time I was 13 to the time I was 34, I had an exit plan. And I was going to end my life in 2016. And everybody's like, well, how did you come up with that year? At the time I was a single mom. As you mentioned, I have like every title of mom. Well, that was my title of single mom, single working mom. And I was waiting for my youngest to graduate high school, which was 2016. And, in that mental capacity of just figuring out, like, how do I just get through this? How do I just survive to just be there for his graduation and then feel like, okay, I'm done. Like I've done what I needed to do. Now they're adults, they can go out and do their own. That was my contemplation. And then, I found Tony Robbins in 2007 and just going to that one event changed my life. And I used to say, oh, Tony saved me. But you know what? In actuality, I saved me because I had the courage to put one step in front of the other, regardless if I knew if it was the right step or not. I had the courage to fall and get back up. And I also had the courage to not sit there and tell people how to live their life when I was still learning how to live mine. And I think that when you think of courageous, authentic leadership, that's really what it was. I had to learn it first. I had to learn how to live my life unapologetically while I was still trying to prove myself to everyone and everybody, including myself. Like I was trying to prove myself to myself that I was worth it. And if I was going to be fully transparent, I would say it's been probably the last 6 months that I can say that I probably can fully honor that word of courageous, authentic leadership, because I show up now without apologies. If I mess up, it's okay, because that's what people need to see. They need to see that those that we look up to, our mentors, the people who inspire us, that they're willing to mess up and own it and not feel that they have to apologize for it. You know, I have a great example. I was, well, you saw me because you're at the live event, and I got to open up for the first Neuroencoding Live, and my mouth was so dry. Everything we learn as a speaker is you don't want to have a bottle of water on there. You like, you know, go take a sip when they're doing an activity or this and that. And I just owned it. I'm like, this is Las Vegas. My throat is so dry. So I'm going to have a bottle of water with me. And you know what? Let's just cheers. Let's all just get hydrated together. I just owned it. And I got out of my head of going, well, nope, tis, Veenu, you're a speaker, you're a professional. You should have hydrated before. Yeah, well, I did hydrate before. I checked everything off, right? That all my leaders told me to do. And yet I still needed to show up being me. And it gave everybody else permission that there's no perfect way to be. And I grew up thinking that way. You know, I'm certified in the DISC personality assessment, and I'm a very high C. There is a perfect way in my life. There is a wrong way. And by God, you're going to do it the perfect way. I had to let go of that. I had to let go that my perfect isn't your perfect. And so one of the things I now talk about is something that I learned: progress over perfection.
Yeah.
And because I can be that authentically, I get to show that. So it's showing up for others fully authentic. I will say this, like when I ask people, you know, if there was one word to describe me, what would you say? And most people would either say inspiring or they would say authentic. Because what you see is what you get, whether you're my friend, whether you're a client, whether you're somebody that I get to, you know, be a role model for. And that's what leadership is. It's being in the trenches with everybody. It's not having this air about you when you're here and a different air about you when you're here. It's just show up as you. You know, there's a saying that I've adopted through the Tony Robbins. I was a fire teamer. I still am. So we create the fires that people walk on. And there's a saying that we say, dare to suck.
I love it.
And I probably think that was the biggest pivot for me, is that instead of looking at perfection and I did it wrong and shame on me and the self-beating that we're so used to doing, I learned how to self-build because I gave myself permission to suck. Like it is okay if I sucked on that stage, totally okay. And what was great and what did I learn from it and what am I going to do better next time? And that is to me the epitome of courageous, authentic leadership.
Absolutely.
Daring to suck and showing up anyway.
Absolutely. Now, you said it's been maybe 6 months that you really felt like you were stepping into that for yourself. Do you remember a pivot point where you went, oh, yeah, this is what this is about. I got this.
I would say probably a few weeks ago, I was invited to speak at Leadership Academy for Tony in June, to be on his stage again, which is to me a huge deal, right? Like he's the #1 speaker in the world. And I, out of all the trainers, there's a handful that's selected and I was selected. And I've been selected several times. And so in my mind, I was like, well, I really haven't done a lot of events. And, you know, well, what if they don't want me? So the self-doubt came in. And then all of a sudden I thought to myself, I'm like, so what? Like, so what if I haven't done events? So what? I own it. I know the content. Why wouldn't they want to pick me? And all of a sudden in my inbox, I got an invite. And I was like, wow. And it was that moment that I realized, like, I didn't have to email anybody. I didn't have to prove anything to anybody. I just have to keep showing up. I just have to keep showing up as me. And I am enough. The way I am is enough. With all the flaws, with all the mistakes. I mean, how many of us say things all the time? We're like, okay, I can't take that back, because it's already out of my mouth. And yet be okay with it and be okay with it and say, you know what? Yep, that was something I probably shouldn't have said. And I'm going to own that I said it, and I'm going to move on. And it's not having to prove myself anymore. And it was like, wow. And I remember talking to my coach just 2 weeks ago, and I said to her, I used to think freedom was financial freedom. Do what you want, when you want, how you want, because there's no more stress of how I'm going to pay that bill. And then I thought freedom years ago was finding the true love of my life, having a marriage, knowing that I was enough for somebody, and there was that constant connection, that love. So I could tick all those boxes off, but yet there was still a sense of me about, like, what's missing. And it was like 2 weeks ago when I told her, I said, I figured out what my freedom was. And she goes, well, what is it? I'm like, not feeling I have to prove myself to anybody anymore. And she was like, I'm going to write that down. She goes, that's amazing. Because how many people talk about that? How many leaders do you know talk about what freedom truly is for you as yourself? And here I do, I coach all these kids from, like, I think my youngest client's 8 all the way up to like 25. And then I have some adults that I coach on identity. And how many of these kids are just reliving the same cycle their parents have, that have no self-esteem, no self-worth. They're parenting through falseness, right? Like, not authentic. They don't really have that worth, but yet they want their kids to have that worth. And here I am coaching these kids. And even though I've had self-worth for many years, it still was a different pivot for me to say, you know what? I'm enough. Like, I'm just enough the way I am. Like, nothing else has to happen. And that's the freedom, because now I'm showing up so authentically. Like, I used to think I was authentic before, and I still say I was. And yet there's certain elements that I'd be like, okay, how do I need to show? Oh, I'm walking into this room. I got, let me show up this way, right? I don't have to do it anymore. I don't have to do it anymore. And that, to me, is showing my courage, because other people get to feel that, and being authentic to who I am. And leaders lead from the inside, not the outside. They guide.
Absolutely.
They're not dictating. They're not commanding. They're seeing what's working, and they say, this is working. So let's move forward with this. Let's stack that so we can get here. They ask people, what is it that you need? And what would that look like? So we're understanding other people's meanings of it. When you do that with your child, you will have so much more of your expectations met. Because the issue that kids have with their parents are, the parents like, oh, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to do that. The kids do it in their 10-year-old way, or their 15-year-old way, not their 48-year-old way or 35-year-old way, right? And we get upset with them because they didn't do it the way we wanted it. They had a different meaning. Mm-hmm. So when we take the time to ask our kids, so tell me what you heard. And they say, well, I heard that I have to have my chores done if I want my phone at the end of the evening. Great. What does that look like to you? I got to empty the dishwasher. I got to throw my, the load of laundry in the washer, and I got to pick up my bathroom and my bedroom. Okay. What does that mean to you to pick up your bedroom? Just so we're on the same page. Because for me, it's pick up all the dirty dishes, pick up all the wrappers, make sure, there's no clothes like all over the floor, and everything is kind of straightened out. But to the kid, it's make your bed and take out the soda cans.
And that's it.
Right. And then we get mad at them, right? Because they didn't do it our way. Well, we have to ask ourselves, how am I showing up as that leader for them? Yes. Right. So leaders are very clear on what definition. So if I am giving a command in that moment, like, hey, we're all going to stand up and we're going to do X, Y, Z. I either need to be clear on what my instructions are, so I'm like making sure everybody in the room understands it, mm-hmm. Or I'm going to ask questions like, what does that mean to you? so we can get the understanding so everybody is on the same page. And that's like leading a group. And when you have children and it's individual, it's so much easier to do because every child has their own personality, and how you raise one is not how you raise the other. So it's getting in there and getting them to feel safe. So when you create an open, safe, and trusting space for your child to open up to you, that is the reward of courageous, authentic leadership.
Oh my gosh. Like mic drop moments, literally. Because I think so many people have this idea of leadership is that it's about doing and doing this, doing that, checking this box, and showing up a certain way, like you said. And we put so much pressure on ourselves to be perfect, whatever that means for each of us, because everybody has their own definition, right? And then we inadvertently end up putting that, or at least communicating that to our children as well, and they follow suit. So I love what you just brought up about the meaning, finding out what does that mean for them, asking the questions, not telling all the time. It's really asking and finding out, do we have a shared meaning of this, or is there a different meaning? And they're going to go off in that direction unless we clarify that.
Absolutely. And that's like my favorite saying I tell everybody: be curious, not critical.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that curiosity will take you so far. That's so wonderful. So
and you're able to align, right? You're able to align. So as a leader, regardless of what leader you are, however you want to, categorize yourself in leadership, don't we as leaders want to be able to lead someone? And in order to lead someone, they have to either respect us or fear us. I'd rather be a leader that's respected than feared.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Trusted, right? And so the way that we do that is to be curious and ask them, ask them questions, be curious and not critical. And again, I mean, I think like the biggest leadership that we have in the world is, number one, to ourselves, lead ourselves first. And number two, to our children.
Absolutely. Because we are the ones that they learn leadership from first and foremost, especially in those early years, right? And you know this from the brain health and their brains are not yet formed to be able to make meaning of things.
Right.
So when they are experiencing things, their brain takes it as truth. That's it.
They do. And it's so funny because I will never, like, one of the most gold nuggets I got from Dr. Amen when I was doing his courses was, we as the parent are the frontal lobe for our teenagers.
Yes. That executive functioning for them before it is developed in themselves.
Right. And it's so funny because, my daughter-in-law, she's also a neuroencoder, and my granddaughter's almost 5. And I listened to her have these conversations. I said, you realize she's 4, not 27. And she's like, oh, no, but she understands. And I said, no, she's a creature of habit. She knows that if she goes to her room and when she's done and she says she's ready to talk about it and you talk about it, she knows that she gets out of her room. So she's going to regurgitate what you said to her. Like, what's a better choice? She's like, not to yell at you, because she's heard that you're not supposed to yell at me. And she knows that you're going into your room because you yelled at me. So she comes out and says, I thought about it. I'm sorry. Okay, what could you do better? Not yell at you. Okay, great. Go play. And it's so funny because my son and my daughter-in-law go through this. And I'm going to be honest with you, like, it's a great drill to teach like choices and to, kind of go over and process what you did to get there and whatnot. But she's 4. And they're like, right. See, mom, I'm telling you, like, she understands. I'm like, okay.
Okay.
We're just going to go with that. And I'm like, isn't that cute? Because she's really putting on a performance because she just wanted out of her room.
She recognizes the pattern.
Right.
That's going to get her what she wants.
Correct. And so, but in their mind, they believe that that is her understanding. And like, I just have a genius kid. And I'm like, we all had genius kids because we all created the same outcome through creature of habit. Like when you say, don't touch the stove, it's hot, and they touch it and they know it's hot. Now it's encoded in their brain that when the stove gets red or there's flames, it's hot. So I don't touch it. But they don't know, don't go out barefoot because the road's hot. They don't make
that's not a stove. It's not
correct. They don't see it red. They don't see a flame. So they go out, they walk on the black hot top, And they're like, oh, okay, that's hot now. So now their brain encodes that too. And then you say, don't touch the car. It's hot. What are they going to do? They're going to touch it because they have not, okay, it's not black. It's not red or glowing or faint or flames. So I don't know what she means that it's hot. Again, it's all encoding into the brain, is that there's a behavior with a reaction, and that reaction teaches them the way to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And when we understand that, and we can understand the process of how it's unfolding,
Right.
we can be calm and we can be more compassionate, I think, with ourselves and our children when we know how our brain is operating. And it's not, why didn't you get that the first time when I told you the stove was hot? Well,
Right.
because it's not a stove.
Right.
It's
Right.
not the same thing.
And so as we process this and we start to communicate with them, like I was just like talking to my daughter last night, because she's been getting like in trouble a lot because she's almost 10 and she feels that she needs to be heard. And I said to her, I said, I want to have the most amazing relationship with you. And it's really difficult that every time I say something, you have something back to say to me. So we need to figure this out. And when you can have a suggestion, I'm ready to listen to it, because I want us to spend more time doing this than we are fighting with each other.
Right.
And I do that because, again, I love that courageous, authentic leadership, because that's me having the courage to say, hey, look, I'm not saying I'm right all the time. And I'm not saying it feels good all the time. But what I am saying to you is that I'm here to figure it out with you. Instead of telling her what she needs to do, because telling a kid what to do, it only lasts for so long. And most parents are finding out right now is that you're not going to bring your kid into your world. You must go in their world. You must understand at each brain level that's growing, where are they coming from in order to lead them? Because you can only lead when you're not judging.
So good. You can only lead when you're not judging. And the opposite of judgment is exactly what you shared earlier, curiosity.
Yep.
Oh, so good.
And like one of the things, like, so like one of the questions I get all the time is like, so how do you get out of judgment? And I'm just going to say, I am a permanent learner in this opportunity.
I think we all are.
And I will give you this. Whenever you are judging someone, ask yourself this question. If I was in their shoes, what would I need right now? Or if I was in their shoes, what would I want? Would I want attention? Would I want somebody to look at me and see me, because I'm not seen if I'm just wearing regular clothes, so I have half my head shaved and tattoos on my face? Instead of going like, really, did you look in the mirror? Because I do it.
Everyone is guilty at some point.
Love going to Walmart at late at night. Love it, because I love to people watch, or being at an airport, right? You just see the most different things. But you know what? Good for them for being authentic and showing up the way they want to. And shame on me for acting like it's different because I don't dress like that.
Right.
So I have been training my brain that every time I go into it, I will say, if I was them, what would I want? Or if I was them, what would I need right now?
I love that.
And it changes it. And then
It
also
really does.
compassion. So instead of judgment sends me into compassion.
Yeah. And takes you out of looking at yourself and looking inward, so you can look outward and be present with other people.
Right.
That's so fantastic. Veenu, this has been amazing. Thank you so much. I think a lot of times people think of leadership from a corporate standpoint or a career standpoint. And you've just shown that it does start within you, and it starts within your family, and it starts within your bubble. And yeah, you've got to go inside yourself to find that courage to be authentically you and create space around you for others to do the same.
Absolutely. And if you're doing it for your kids, guess how they're going to grow up? Courageously authentic leaders.
Yeah. And if we had more of them, how much better would the world be?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And I want to share too with the audience that you are giving them your ebook, Teaching Children that They Are Enough.
Yes.
And I think that's amazing to offer that free ebook to our folks who are listening. I will make sure that in the email that they get, that they have access to that link. But just if you can hear it and take note, it is veenuinspires.com/ebook.
Yes.
So thank you, Veenu, so much.
Absolutely.
Where else can folks go if they want to connect with you and learn more about what you do?
Yes. So I have a brand new TV show. It's on ZingoTV.com. You can download it on Roku, Fire Stick, any smart TV after 2016, iOS and app stores. It's on Google Chromecast. I always get, that's a tongue twister for me. And I'm live every Tuesday at 2:00 on Eastern time. And I bring in some different experts on different things because, like I said, there's just not one way to show up for your children. And we have enough titles already to say I'm a conscious parent. And then the minute you're not conscious, you're beating yourself up, or I'm a mindful parent. And then the minute you're not mindful, you're like, oh gosh, I screwed that up. We just need to show up for our kids the way we need to show up. And so I've created this show. It's called Redefine Parenting. It's also a podcast. You can download it on Google, Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, all of it. Because it's time that my mission is to never, ever, ever hear about another kid wanting to commit suicide. If I could be a conduit in that, I want to show up for that. And having this TV show and podcast is the way I get to do my share.
That's lovely. Thank you so much for everything you've shared with us here and everything you will share with the folks who go and watch your show and tune into you on all the channels that you have. So thank you, Veenu, so much.
Thank you.